Manchester United are looking into a shock approach from Edson Alvarez from West Ham. Dan Ashworth bombshell with apparently him not being able to start work for another 9 months. And there's been a massive delay in the Joshua Zirkzee to Manchester United deal. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please do me a small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 200 likes on this morning's show. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. YouTube has told me that only 50% of people who watch these videos are subscribed. So if you're one of those people who isn't subscribed, please get involved. We are live every single day in the morning and in the evening with all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Right, let's jump straight on into this then, shall we? I wanted to talk a little bit about Mason Greenwood first before we get into the Zirkzee, Edson Alvarez and Dan Ashworth stuff, because there's obviously been so much talk about Mason Greenwood over the last 2 years about what his future is going to be, whether he's going to stay at Manchester United, how much money he's worth. Like, everybody has an opinion, and obviously this channel is a place for an opinion. It's somewhere where you can come, we can talk, we can share, and we can discuss as a community. So the question I've got for you this morning is, how much do you think Mason Greenwood should be sold for? What is his value? Because everyone has an opinion on this, and I would love to know what you guys think. Now, just to give you a bit of context about what's going on at the moment, Manchester United are apparently set on selling Mason Greenwood, and there are multiple different clubs who are trying to sign the 22-year-old. Now, we've got Juventus, we've got Lazio, you've got Atletico Madrid, we have got Getafe, but Getafe are probably out of the race realistically, and there is also Benfica. So there's lots and lots of clubs who are interested in signing him. And I want you to let me know, effectively, we could have a bidding war on our hands, right? And how much do you think Mason Greenwood is worth? That's what I want to know. But the headline this morning is that apparently Benfica have pulled out of the race to sign Mason Greenwood. Apparently they're saying that the amount of money it's going to cost is going to be too much. They're not going to be able to afford it. I don't understand that. Benfica are a club who make ridiculous amounts of money. They sold Enzo Fernandez for what, 130 million last summer? They're trying to sell us João Neves for 100 million. Like, how can they say they don't have any money to buy Mason Greenwood? It doesn't make sense. And is there a world where Manchester United go back in for João Neves and say, we'll give you Mason Greenwood, say, plus 50 million? Something like that. Like, why can't these types of deals happen? We're seeing it happen at the moment with Aston Villa, Everton and Chelsea, which we'll talk about in depth a little bit later on in the show. But I don't know if anybody's seen this, but it's completely mental, right? So Chelsea are selling their youth players to Aston Villa. Aston Villa are selling their youth players to Chelsea. And Everton are selling youth players as well. And the reason they're doing this is because of profit and sustainability. They're selling players that have come through the youth academy that are going to be classed as 100% profit to each other. It's a loophole. It's another loophole to get around the kind of financial fair play thing. And a lot of people are very, very upset about it. But the point I'm trying to make here is, like, swap deals are a thing, you know, where one person buys one player and vice versa. And why, if they want Mason Greenwood, right, Benfica, why can't we do some sort of swap deal where, you know, we get João Neves? Like, that would be absolutely perfect. And apparently, you know, Benfica really wants to sign him. Mason Greenwood wants to go there. Like, why can't this not happen? It's very strange, but yeah, it's just a bit frustrating, isn't it? But yeah, let me know in the comment section, everybody. How much do you think Mason Greenwood is worth? Let me know what your thoughts are. Bill says, why can't we do a player plus cash swap deal between João Neves and Greenwood? That's exactly what I just said. Why can't that happen? Amnat says, I have a question for this community. Despite being linked with so many players, why aren't we able to sign anyone until now? I think it's because of the profit and sustainability deadline. So on June the 30th, the new period for profit and sustainability starts. That's why Everton, Chelsea and Aston Villa are trying to sell players, because if they don't sell players before June the 30th, they're going to get a points deduction. So I think it's because of that. I think after June the 30th, which I think is a week from now, loads of deals will start happening. It's frustrating, but it's just how it is. And the thing that we need to be considerate about is that pre-season doesn't start until I think the 15th of July. So as long as we have players in by then, I think we're good. that's kind of like the deadline for me. You want to have at least 2 or 3 of your signings in for that first preseason game, which is on the 15th of July. Yeah. So I wouldn't get too worried about it right now. I think, the first 2 weeks of July are the ones where we really, really need to start making some deals happen. And we'll talk about why these delays are happening in a minute, because there's a big delay with the Joshua Zirkzee deal. But before we get into that, let's move on to Jarrad Branthwaite. I know most people in this community seem to be done with Jarrad Branthwaite. Everybody seems to feel like the asking price for Everton is ridiculous, £70 million. But the headline this morning from Simon Jones, who is a very reliable journalist in the UK, he is reporting that Manchester United are still preparing to submit a second offer for Everton centre-back Jarrad Branthwaite. So we haven't given up on Branthwaite by the looks of it. He still seems to be the number one target. But what I'll say on this is, if Everton want 70 million, right, they're not going to accept less than 70 million, are they? They don't need to sell any players now because, as I just said, they're selling Dominic Calvert-Lewin to Newcastle, and apparently they're selling another youth player to Chelsea, I think it is, for like £20 million. And people are going crazy about this because it's someone who's never even played in the first team. Apparently their market value is like £1 million and they're being sold for 20 million. And then Chelsea are selling one of their youth players back to Everton for 20 million. Like, it sounds dodgy, but it's a loophole that's allowed within the rules. And effectively, as I said, the reason why they're doing this is it means that that'll be £20 million profit on their sustainability reports. I feel like next season this will be something that will be banned, and there'll probably be an external commission board that will look at these types of transfers and will decide how much the player's actually worth. Because otherwise, Man United could in theory sell someone from the youth academy that no one's heard of to another Premier League club for whatever amount of money they want, and then buy the other team's youth players for the same amount. It's a bit of a confusing one, and it's obviously something that these clubs have worked out a way round the profit and sustainability issue. But yeah, apparently Man United are going to go back in for Jarrad Branthwaite. I'll be honest with you, right? I really, really think we should just leave the Jarrad Branthwaite deal. I feel like we'll spend all of our transfer window messing around. Like, that's all that seems to happen with when we go for another player that the club doesn't want to sell, they've set their asking price and we're not willing to pay it. It's just going to be a waste of everyone's time. And it really, really does frustrate me. Robert says, isn't that the same thing as we can't buy Todibo from Nice, the buying of players on the cheap? Mate, exactly. It's exactly the same thing. And so far, the Premier League haven't cottoned onto it. It's really stupid, and like rival fans are obviously really upset about this because it effectively is a way around the whole profit and sustainability thing. I'm just going to get the exact details up of it here, right? So let me have a look. So Chelsea are selling Maatsen to Villa for 40 million, right? But then Chelsea are buying a Villa youth player for 20 million, despite him only being worth around 1 million and has only played 150 minutes of professional football, right? 20 million pounds for somebody who's only played 150 minutes of professional football. And then at the same time, Villa are then signing a youth player from Everton who's never played a professional football game in the first team for 10 million, even though their value is only about 100,000. And then Everton are buying a player off Villa for 9 million. It literally is, it's mad. It's like a proper jigsaw effect. Villa buy a youth player off Everton for 10 million. Everton buy a youth player off Villa for 10 million. And for some reason this is allowed, and it's a loophole. But by this time next year, this will definitely be banned 100%. When you look at some of the youth players that we've sold over the years, right? Zidane Iqbal, Mengi, Hansen, they've all been sold for like under £1 million. Whereas these players, who no one's ever heard of, and they've never even played in the first team, some are selling for as much as £20 million. Like, it's mental, and it would definitely be banned in the next couple of years. And to the person in the comments section, you're 100% right. It's the same as the argument for Todibo, where in theory, Man United could buy Todibo for a really small amount of money because it benefits us, and that's why UEFA don't allow it. And as CBK says, Chelsea are still giving out these 8-year contracts, so they're spreading out this money over 8 years. It's crazy. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour and smash a like. We've got over 400 people watching on the show this morning, which is absolutely incredible. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. I was looking at the YouTube analytics the other day, and it told me that only 50% of people who watch our live streams are subscribed to the channel. It's completely free content. It doesn't cost you any money. So if this is your first time watching, or if you aren't subscribed, please do subscribe. Yeah, I really, really do appreciate it. And I love seeing more Manchester United fans in the chat. So yeah, get involved. We have a really nice community here. Yeah, big ups to all of you. Okay, so we've spoke about this whole PSR thing. We've spoke about Jarrad Branthwaite. My opinion is steer clear of Jarrad Branthwaite. 70 million is stupid. There are plenty of other options out there on the market. Lenny Yoro, Antonio Silva from Benfica is an interesting option. Gonzalo Inacio. There are so many different players out there that we could go for. Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace. I think he'd be an incredible signing. Obviously, Crystal Palace want Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Like, we should try and do that deal. Send Wan-Bissaka to Crystal Palace. You'll probably get 20 million for him. And then buy Mark Gahey. Mark Gahey is better than Jarrad Branthwaite, without a shadow of a doubt. Mark Gahey is starting every game for England at the Euros. Jarrad Branthwaite didn't even get selected to be on the bench. He's back at home or on holiday. So if I'm Manchester United looking at this deal, right, I'm going, screw Jarrad Branthwaite. I'm going all out for Mark Gahey. You know? He's English, so you match the England quota thing, which the homegrown quota. Yeah, I would do that. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys think, actually. Should we do a poll on that? That would be quite a good poll, I think. I'm just going to read out the results of the last poll before we start the new one. So I asked you this question. Should Manchester United sign Edson Alvarez for £60 million, right? We'll be talking about him in a minute. 49% of people watching today's video say that we should sign Edson Alvarez, and 51% of you say we shouldn't. So it's pretty level there, very level. I'll talk about Edson Alvarez in a minute. I'm going to start a new poll really, really quickly. Whilst I do that, please hit the like button. We've got over 500 people watching now, guys. Let's try and see 200 likes by the end of this video. So please hit that like button right now. And the question is going to be this. Who would you prefer to sign? Simple question. And the options are going to be Mark Gahey or Jarrad Branthwaite. There we go. So anybody who's watching the video live, obviously get involved in the poll. Anybody who is watching the video back on repeat, you can let me know in the comment section, who would you prefer to sign if you had to pick between Mark Gahey and Jarrad Branthwaite? I'm going with Mark Gahey. That's my pick, but you can let me know what yours are in the comment section. Obviously, give me a bit of a reason why you like the player you've picked. Or maybe you could come and say, you know what? I don't like either of them. I want us to sign this player. I always like to get other opinions from other Manchester United fans. That was the purpose of starting this channel. So, yeah, please do have your say. I always enjoy reading other opinions. Okay, let's move on to Joshua Zirkzee, though, shall we? Because there has been a bit of a setback in this approach. So, just to give everyone a bit of a recap of where we are up to now with Joshua Zirkzee, he's got a £34 million release clause, which becomes active on the 1st of July, which is, I believe, a week tomorrow. Let's have a look. Yes, that is correct. It's a week tomorrow. So effectively, on that day, Manchester United can go to Bologna and pay £34 million and they get the player. Unbelievable deal. He's definitely worth more than £34 million. But the issue up to this point has been the commission that the agent is trying to charge. So in this case, the agent is trying to charge £12 million as a fee just to facilitate the deal. So Man United would have to pay £34 million to Bologna and then also £12 million to his agent, which obviously has caused a lot of upset in the fan base. People saying that's ridiculous. People saying, you know, how does he deserve £12 million for doing what? But the argument is this. Joshua Zirkzee is worth more than £34 million, clearly. We paid £70 million for Rasmus Højlund last season, and Rasmus Højlund had scored less goals in Serie A versus what Joshua Zirkzee did last season, okay? So there is no way anybody on this channel can tell me that Højlund's worth 70 and Zirkzee's only worth 34. They probably are both worth about 40, 50 million realistically, let's be honest. Like, Højlund's not worth 70 million and Zirkzee's not worth 34. They're probably 40 to 50 million pounds players at the top. So effectively what's happened here is the agent has said, well, I want the difference of the market value. So The agent probably values the player at 40 to 50 million, like I've said, but Man United are only having to pay 34 million. So he's effectively said, you know what? If you want to sign my player, you've got to give me 12 million pounds, which obviously has caused a lot of frustration. AC Milan had already agreed personal terms with the player. He wanted to move to AC Milan. They'd already spoke to Bologna and said, we're going to trigger the release clause. But apparently they were not willing to pay this agent fee. So that deal has effectively fallen through at the moment. The agent is not willing to reduce the agent fee for AC Milan. But apparently, Joshua Zirkzee's agent has a very, very good relationship with Ineos and Manchester United. And apparently he's willing to do a lower agent commission for Manchester United, which is great. I mean, I think the agent commission thing should be removed from football. I think it's disgusting. The agents earn crazy money as it is. But for them to say, I want £12 million just to facilitate a deal, which effectively is an easy deal to do. There's no level of negotiation. Manchester United knock on the door of Bologna and say, we've triggered the release clause, here's 34 million, and that's it, the deal's done. So I don't understand. But there's no reason for him to want £12 million other than pure greed. So, I do hope in the next kind of 1 or 2 years, UEFA, FIFA, whoever it needs to be, get rid of these agent commissions, because it actually is disgusting and I think it is ruining football a little bit. The transfer fees are bad enough. The wages are bad enough. Like, money has ruined football to some extent, but when you bring into to account all of these agent fees and all of this other stuff, it is incredibly frustrating. I mean, a prime example of that is the Erling Haaland deal to Man City. He had a release clause of £50 million, right? But part of that deal, Man City had to give his agent, who was obviously Raiola, who's obviously dead now, but they had to give Raiola, his agent, £50 million, and they had to give his father £50 million as well. So they gave Dortmund £50 million, his agent Raiola £50 million, and his father £50 million. So if you look at how much the transfer was for Erling Haaland, it will say £50 million, but in reality, it was £150 million. You know, it's crazy. And it needs to be removed from football. But in relation to the delay for Joshua Zirkzee, the news this morning is that apparently he doesn't want to decide his future until after the Euros. Okay, this is coming out from a very reliable journalist in the Netherlands, and they're reporting that Joshua Zirkzee doesn't want to decide his future until the end of the Netherlands' participation in the Euros. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. He doesn't even play for the Netherlands. Like, he sits on the bench. I don't think he's played a single minute yet for the Netherlands. Let me double check that, because I don't want to put out wrong information. But I know he didn't play any in the first game against Poland. Let's have a look. Joshua Zirkzee. Yeah, he literally hasn't played a minute yet at the Euros. Not 1 minute. He's just been sat on the bench. You've got Manchester United, the biggest club in world football, knocking at your door, willing to probably double or triple your wage, and you're saying you want to wait until after the Euros. Like, why? Like, surely you can tell them, surely you either want to join Manchester United or you don't. It's not like, it's not like he's starting every game at the Euros and he's the top goal scorer and he's hoping that Real Madrid, Bayern Munich are going to all come in for him. He's sitting on the bench. He's not even coming off the bench as a sub. He's not having any contribution in the Euros whatsoever. So I don't really understand this narrative. Is that just him waiting for a better option? Like, I think it's stupid. But as I said, we can't even trigger the release clause for another week anyway. So he's welcome to have another week. Have your week. But I don't understand that. You either are honoured and hear Manchester United's name and you want to go and play for that club, for that badge, for the fans. You want to, play for Erik ten Hag, a fellow Dutchman. Or you don't. It's a simple question. It's a simple answer. Either you do or you don't. What is sitting at the on the bench for the Euros for the next 2 weeks going to change that decision? It's not, no other clubs are going to come knocking for you just because you've sat on the bench at the Euros. So I don't really understand that. And it's kind of rubbed me up the wrong way a little bit this morning, to be honest, because I felt that this deal was very advanced. That was the news we'd had from, David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano, like all of the tier 1 journalists were saying that, Manchester United were very keen. They were discussing the agent fees, all the rest of it. But then this morning to find out that they're effectively waiting until after the Euros, like, What happens if the Netherlands get to the final of the Euros? That's not till the 15th of July. Our pre-season tour is supposed to start on the 15th of July. You know? So even though this sounds a bit horrible, I'm kind of hoping that the Netherlands get knocked out now, because I don't want to sit here and wait for another 3 weeks for him to come, and then our pre-season tour to already have started, you know, and then them to say, oh, he needs to go off on holiday, blah, blah, blah. Because that will happen, remember? Like, as soon as the Euros finishes, the players aren't going to immediately come back to training. They'll probably get 2 weeks off holiday. So, yeah, although it sounds a little bit harsh, I actually want him to... I actually want the Netherlands to get knocked out now, because I support Manchester United. I want Manchester United to be set up for the next season. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat then. Somebody says it might be because it's a closed camp and they can't speak to people outside of the camp. Yeah, maybe. It's possible, but I'm sure a player can message his agent saying, yes, I want to join Manchester United or not. You know, it's not like... You know, it's not like he's going off for a wedding or he's going off on holiday midway through the Euros. It's like a simple WhatsApp message. Yes or no, I want to join Manchester United. Like, yeah, it's stupid. We've got over 600 people watching now, which is absolutely amazing. That's incredible. Big ups to every single one of you. If everyone who's watching could do me a small little favour and hit the like button. We're trying to hit 200 likes on today's video. I think we will be able to do it. And we're only 2 subscribers away from 23,800. So if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe. It's completely free content. So, you know, your way of giving back to me is liking and subscribing. And obviously, if you enjoy the content, if you don't, then that's obviously fine. But yeah, let me know what everybody thinks about this Joshua Zirkzee delay. Are you as frustrated about it as me? Do you think this is just normal? Like, yeah. Wayne says, Joshua Zirkzee can't even get 5 minutes for his country. Why are we even looking at this guy? I mean, it's a fair point. It is a very, very fair point, you know? Memphis Depay is starting ahead of him every single game at the Euros. Memphis Depay was a flop at Manchester United. Memphis Depay is available as a free agent and is playing ahead of him. Like, I'm not by any means saying that we should sign Memphis Depay. I'm just trying to create a conversation here. That the player that we're going all out for doesn't want to commit to Manchester United until after the Euros, but he's not even playing at the Euros. He's sat on the bench. And the guy that's starting ahead of him is Memphis Depay, who flopped at Manchester United, is now a free agent, and in theory, we could sign for nothing. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a difficult one to take, and I know it's probably just me being a bit bitter, you know, because I support Manchester United. I love Manchester United, and I'm looking at this situation saying, why is he not as excited about Manchester United as I am? But effectively, yeah. Keeping on the topic of Netherlands players, actually, really quickly, I wanted to talk a little bit about Javi Simons, because Fabrizio Romano came out with a massive story last night, and he has reported the following, that apparently Javi Simons has formally informed Paris Saint-Germain about his plan to leave the club this summer. He says, key detail, it will be a loan move until 2025, as mentioned since April. Now, should Manchester United try and sign Javi Simons on loan next season? He doesn't want to go to PSG. He will be leaving the club on loan. Should we go in for him? I think so. I think he would be a really, really good addition to the squad. I would love to see Javi Simons at Manchester United. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Would you like to see Javi Simons at Manchester United? If anybody in the chat who's a regular, has anybody seen Fred recently? He literally watches every single video, and I haven't seen him this week. So if anybody's seen him on another channel or something, let me know, because yeah, it's strange not to see him in the chat. If you're watching this back on repeat, Fred, drop a comment just to know that you're all right and you're still there. Right. Okay, cool. Let's move on from that, though. Let's move on to Edson Alvarez then, shall we? Because this is the big story that we wanted to talk about on this morning's show. And the headline this morning is this. This is coming out from Plettigol, who is a very reliable journalist, obviously reports for Sky Sports over in Germany. And he is reporting that Manchester United have approached West Ham midfielder Edson Alvarez in recent days and have gathered information about the figures required to bring him to the club. It says his price valuation is estimated to be between 60 to 80 million euros. It says Erik ten Hag has a high opinion of Álvarez and wants to bring him to Manchester United. Now, we ran a poll earlier on in the show about whether Edson Alvarez to Manchester United is effectively a good deal or not. So it's going to be £60 million minimum. And 50% of you said yes, and 50% of you said no. Now, he is a CDM. He is what we need, realistically. He can play at centre-back as well, which is obviously good. But is this Manchester United going for another Erik ten Hag signing? Yes, of course it is. Obviously, he played at Ajax under Erik ten Hag. Do I think Manchester United should go for him? I don't know. I think 60 million is a hell of a lot of money. Yeah, I think it's a hell of a lot of money, being completely honest. But it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see what you guys think. Would you like to see Edson Alvarez at Manchester United for £60 million? I think it's too much money, and I would even go as far as saying, right, and this might be controversial, but I would much rather assign Sofyan Amrabat. Sofyan Amrabat is available for £19 million with a release clause, okay? We can literally just buy him now with no negotiation because Fiorentina have an agreement with us already that was part of the loan deal that we can sign him for £19 million. Amrabat is only 27. He's not that old. Edson Alvarez is 26. So, you know, they're 1 year apart in age. Amrabat has already been at the club for a season. He's proved to us in the last 5 to 10 games of the season, you know, against Brighton, the FA Cup final against Man City, etc., etc. He's proved to us that he's good enough to be a Manchester United player. So why would we go for Edson Alvarez? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, surely you just keep Sofyan Amrabat. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys think. I just don't think we have the budget to be spending £60 million. Yeah. Daniela says, I'm a West Ham fan and there is no way we're selling Alvarez without a massive price tag. That's interesting to see, a rival fan's opinion. And I agree with you 100%. Like, West Ham apparently wants 60 to 80 million. That's crazy money. And I don't blame them. He's probably one of their best players, isn't he? But yeah. Anton says Amrabat over Alvarez with a crying emoji or laughing emoji. Anton, you've got to look at everything in perspective, okay? Amrabat is £19 million. Edson Alvarez is £60 million. Manchester United have barely any money. Barely any. We've got about 50 to £100 million to spend this summer. If you go and sign Edson Alvarez, you're probably not going to be able to sign anyone else until you've sold some players. Whereas Sofyan Amrabat, you could go and get Sofyan Amrabat. You could go and get Joshua Zirkzee for less money than Edson Alvarez would cost you. That's 2 signings. We need so many players this window. We're not in a position to be spending 60 million about one person. I don't think anyway. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys think. Would you like to see Edson Alvarez at Manchester United? Let me know in the comment section below. I think he's a good player. But me personally, I think we should steer away from that. I think, yeah. I would like to see João Neves. That's not probably going to happen. I would rather see Amadou Onana from Everton. I think he's a better player than Edson Alvarez. He's younger. I think he would be an amazing player for Manchester United. Yeah, so for me, Edson Alvarez, if it was 20, 30 million, then yeah, great. But you're never going to get him for that. So I would avoid that at all costs. Right, the final story I've got for you this morning is on Dan Ashworth, and it's a frustrating one. I'm going to be honest with you guys, it really, really is. So this is coming out from a couple of different journalists in the UK this morning saying that Manchester United are now going to have to wait 9 months for Dan Ashworth to start work as their new sporting director. It says insiders at the club revealed he may now not be able to start officially working until March 2025. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. So we're going to go into the summer without a director of football. Omar Barada starts in July, I think. So it's going to be a relatively difficult transfer window, I think, because we don't have a director of football. So nothing really has changed to this point. At the moment, the only person we have who wasn't here under the Glazers is Jason Wilcox, who's a technical director. He's not a scout. He's somebody who kind of pieces together the youth, the under-21s into the first team, etc. You know, he creates that path from the youth team to the first team. Dan Ashworth is supposed to be the person who buys the players, and he's not here. So it's frustrating, but that's who Ineos want. They've put all of their eggs in one basket. They've not looked at any other candidates. They want Dan Ashworth. They're happy to wait. So it kind of is what it is, isn't it? Like, it's frustrating. Maybe it's the wrong decision. Maybe we should have looked at alternative targets. But I think we've actually gone past the point now. We are going to get Dan Ashworth, and we are going to have to wait. Yeah, we're going to have to wait until March. Luma says, Kieran, why aren't you portraying your impatience over outgoing players as well anymore? Mate, we're going to sell a lot of players this window. Don't you worry. We will. The window only opened like last week. And as I said earlier on in the show, a lot of clubs are waiting until July the 1st to do deals because of profit and sustainability. So, yeah. The thing is, right, we've got to give Ineos a chance. We've got to wait until the end of the transfer window to really assess how they've done. We're still so early on in the transfer window, you know? It doesn't end until the end of August. So we've got a very, very long time. Simon says, what about McTominay to West Ham as part exchange or Harry Maguire? Yeah, I think that would be interesting. Harry Maguire and McTominay in exchange for Edson Alvarez. Like, that would be a good deal, but it depends whether West Ham still want them or not. They've got a new manager. Obviously, David Moyes is no longer the manager. McTominay and Maguire were what's his name? Can't remember his name. My brain's just gone. I literally just said his name. I don't know. I can see his name. I can see his face in my head. But yeah, we don't know whether West Ham even want Maguire and McTominay anymore because effectively they've got a new manager and he might not want them. So, you know, it's easy for us to say, oh, let's do a swap deal. But there's lots of complexity to that deal, isn't there? David Moyes, that's the guy's name. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. It's been an amazing show today. I will be back live later this evening, probably about 6 o'clock. Please do smash a like on the video before you go. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your Sunday, whatever you get up to. And I will speak to you all later on this evening. Bye-bye for now.